Imagine a city, not unlike any other, bathed in the warm glow of a Colombian sunset. The year is 1989. The air is thick with the scent of coffee and tropical flowers, but beneath this idyllic surface, a different kind of power is brewing. This isn't Medellin, the chaotic, blood-soaked battleground of Pablo Escobar. This is Cali, a city of elegance, refinement, and a chillingly sophisticated criminal enterprise. While the world watched Escobar's brutal reign, another empire was quietly, meticulously being built. An empire that would eventually control 80% of the world's cocaine market, infiltrate the highest levels of government, and operate with a level of corporate precision that made Escobar's operations look like street brawls. This is the story of the Cali Cartel, often overshadowed by the flamboyant violence of their rival, but ultimately far more insidious, far more powerful, and far more dangerous. They were known as the Gentlemen of Cali, a moniker that belied their ruthless efficiency and their unparalleled ability to corrupt. Their story isn't just about drugs, it's about power, influence, and the terrifying realization that sometimes the greatest threats don't announce themselves with explosions, but with whispers and handshakes. It's a narrative of two contrasting philosophies of crime, one loud and destructive, the other quiet and pervasive, and how the latter ultimately prevailed, only to fall victim to its own success. This is the untold story, the one Narcos barely scratched the surface of, the true saga of the Cali Cartel. To truly understand the Cali Cartel, we must first understand the stark contrast between their operational philosophy and that of their infamous rival, Pablo Escobar, and the Medellin cartel. Escobar was a force of nature, a populist outlaw who embraced violence as his primary tool. He waged open war against the Colombian state, planting bombs, assassinating officials, and terrorizing the population into submission. His approach was direct, brutal, and undeniably effective in creating fear. He sought to be seen, to be feared, to be a legend in his own time. His empire was built on intimidation, and his downfall was ultimately sealed by his inability to operate outside the spotlight he so desperately craved. The Cali Cartel, however, operated with an entirely different mindset. They were the antithesis of Escobar's chaos. While Medellin reveled in public displays of power and violence, Cali preferred the shadows. Their leaders cultivated an image of legitimate businessmen, philanthropists even, investing in local businesses, sponsoring sports teams, and maintaining a low profile. Their strategy was not to confront the state, but to infiltrate it. They understood that true power lay not in open warfare, but in quiet corruption, in the subtle manipulation of institutions, and in the cultivation of a vast network of informants and allies within the government, police, and military. They were the masters of the bribe, the architects of the silent takeover. Where Escobar sought to destroy the system, Cali sought to own it. This fundamental difference in approach would define their rivalry and ultimately determine their respective fates. One was a raging fire, burning brightly and consuming everything in its path, destined to burn out. The other was a creeping vine, slowly, silently, strangling the very foundations of the state from within. The gentlemen of Cali understood that a bullet could kill a man, but a well-placed bribe could control an entire nation. This was their genius and their ultimate undoing. At the heart of the Cali Cartel's sophisticated operation were four men, each bringing a distinct skill set to the table, forming a criminal syndicate that was more akin to a multinational corporation than a traditional drug gang. These were the architects, the masterminds who built an empire on discretion and strategic corruption. First, there was Gilberto Rodriguez Orejuela, known as El Ajedrecista, the chess player. His nickname perfectly encapsulated his strategic brilliance. Gilberto was the brains, the visionary. He eschewed violence in favor of negotiation and financial acumen. He was the one who envisioned the cartel as a legitimate business, diversifying investments into pharmacies, hotels, and even a chain of radio stations. His calm demeanor and sharp intellect allowed him to navigate complex political landscapes and forge alliances that were unimaginable for his contemporaries. He was the one who saw the bigger picture, always several moves ahead. His younger brother, Miguel Rodriguez Orejuela, was El Señor. Miguel was the cartel's operational genius, the meticulous administrator who managed the day-to-day logistics of their vast empire. He was responsible for the intricate network of smuggling routes, the money laundering operations, and the overall efficiency that allowed Cali to outcompete any rival. Miguel was less visible than Gilberto, but equally indispensable, ensuring that the gears of their illicit machine turned smoothly and silently. He was the one who translated Gilberto's grand strategies into actionable plans. Then there was José Santa Cruz Londoño, El Gordo, the Fat Man. Santa Cruz was the cartel's international liaison, particularly adept at managing their operations in New York City, which became their primary distribution hub in the United States. He was known for his ruthlessness when necessary, but also for his ability to maintain a sophisticated facade. Santa Cruz was the bridge between Cali's production and the lucrative American market, ensuring a steady flow of product and profits. He was the one who understood the global market and how to exploit it. Finally, Helmer Pacho Herrera Buitrago, often referred to as the Man of 1,000 Faces or the Lord of the Air, was the cartel's enforcer and security chief, though he operated with a level of discretion, unlike Escobar's hitmen. Pacho was openly gay, a rarity in the macho world of drug trafficking, and used his unique position to cultivate a network of contacts and informants. He was responsible for security, debt collection, and, when absolutely necessary, the discreet elimination of threats. Pacho's methods were surgical, precise, and designed to leave minimal trace, a stark contrast to the public massacres orchestrated by Medellin. He was the one who ensured loyalty and dealt with problems quietly. Together, these four men formed a formidable leadership, a true board of directors for a criminal enterprise that redefined the very concept of drug trafficking. The Cali Cartel's organizational structure was perhaps its most revolutionary aspect, setting it apart from every other criminal enterprise of its time. While Pablo Escobar ran a centralized top-down operation, prone to collapse if the head was severed, the Cali Cartel adopted a decentralized cellular model that mirrored a legitimate multinational corporation. This structure was a masterclass in resilience and efficiency. Instead of a single vulnerable hierarchy, the cartel was divided into semi-autonomous cells, each responsible for a specific function: production, transportation, distribution, money laundering, and security. These cells operated with a degree of independence, reporting to the core leadership but largely managing their own day-to-day operations. This compartmentalization offered several critical advantages. If one cell was compromised, the entire network wouldn't necessarily unravel. Information was siloed, meaning that an arrested operative could only reveal a fraction of the cartel's overall activities, protecting the broader organization from catastrophic exposure. This made it incredibly difficult for law enforcement to penetrate and dismantle the cartel from the outside. Furthermore, the Cali Cartel invested heavily in professional talent. They hired lawyers, accountants, engineers, and even former military intelligence officers. These professionals brought legitimate business acumen to their illicit operations, optimizing logistics, refining financial schemes, and ensuring a level of sophistication that was unprecedented in the drug trade. Their money laundering operations, for instance, were incredibly complex, involving shell corporations, offshore accounts, and legitimate businesses that seamlessly integrated dirty money into the global financial system. This corporate approach extended to their human resources as well. Unlike Escobar, who relied on a loyal but often unsophisticated army of sicarios, Cali employed a more professional, disciplined workforce. They paid well, offered benefits, and demanded loyalty and discretion above all else. This created a highly motivated and less volatile workforce, further contributing to their stability and operational secrecy. This decentralized, professionalized structure was the bedrock of their power, allowing them to scale their operations globally while maintaining a low profile, a stark contrast to the chaotic and ultimately self-destructive model of their rivals. The Cali Cartel's commitment to sophistication wasn't limited to its organizational structure. It extended deeply into its embrace of cutting-edge technology and intelligence gathering. They understood that information was power, and they invested heavily in tools that gave them an unparalleled advantage over both their rivals and law enforcement. This technological edge was a cornerstone of their ability to operate with such stealth and efficiency. One of their most famous technological assets was a state-of-the-art IBMAS/400 mainframe computer system. This wasn't just a glorified calculator. It was a sophisticated data management system that allowed them to track every aspect of their vast enterprise. From cocaine production quotas and distribution routes to financial transactions and payroll for their extensive network of employees and informants, everything was meticulously logged and analyzed. This level of data management provided them with real-time insights into their operations, enabling them to optimize logistics, identify bottlenecks, and manage their finances with precision that rivaled legitimate corporations. It was a central nervous system for their empire, providing a comprehensive overview that no other cartel could match. Beyond internal management, the Cali Cartel also developed an incredibly advanced intelligence network. They employed former military and police intelligence officers, leveraging their expertise in surveillance and counter-surveillance. They utilized sophisticated wiretapping equipment, the intercepting phone calls of law enforcement officials, rival traffickers, and even politicians. This gave them an invaluable early warning system, allowing them to anticipate raids, avoid arrests, and stay one step ahead of their pursuers. They even reportedly used aerial surveillance, flying planes equipped with SIGINT, signals intelligence technology, to monitor communications and movements, giving them a bird's-eye view of the operational landscape. Their intelligence gathering wasn't just about technology, it was also about human assets. They cultivated an extensive network of informants within every level of Colombian society, from low-level police officers to high-ranking government officials. These informants provided them with critical intelligence, allowing them to corrupt officials, evade capture, and even manipulate political processes. This combination of advanced technology and a pervasive human intelligence network created an almost impenetrable shield around the Cali Cartel, allowing them to operate with a level of impunity that was both terrifying and unprecedented. They were not just drug traffickers, they were information brokers, masters of the digital and human intelligence game, turning data into dominance. With their corporate structure and technological prowess firmly in place, the Cali Cartel embarked on an aggressive yet calculated expansion that saw them eclipse all rivals and seize control of the global cocaine trade. Their rise to dominance was a testament to their strategic vision and their ability to adapt and innovate in a brutal industry. While Escobar was busy fighting a bloody war against the Colombian state, the Cali Cartel was quietly consolidating its power. They systematically expanded their reach, establishing sophisticated distribution networks across the United States and Europe. New York City became their primary hub, a bustling metropolis where their product flowed freely through a labyrinthine system of front companies and corrupt officials. They didn't just ship drugs, they built an entire supply chain, from cultivation in the jungles of Peru and Bolivia to processing in their clandestine labs, and finally to distribution on the streets of major international cities. This end-to-end control allowed them to maintain quality, control pricing, and maximize profits on an unprecedented scale. Their strategy was simple: avoid direct confrontation and focus on market share. They offered better quality product, more reliable delivery, and a less violent, more business-like approach to their distributors. This made them the preferred supplier for many international criminal organizations. By the early 1990s, the Cali Cartel was estimated to control approximately 80% of the world's cocaine market, a staggering figure that underscored their unparalleled reach and efficiency. Their annual revenues were in the billions, and making them one of the wealthiest criminal organizations in history. This immense wealth was then reinvested, not just into their drug operations, but into legitimate businesses, further blurring the lines between their illicit activities and the legal economy. They bought up pharmacies, hotels, real estate, and even media outlets, creating a vast financial empire that provided both cover for their illicit gains and a means to exert influence. This diversification made them incredibly powerful, allowing them to operate with a level of economic leverage that no other cartel had ever achieved. They weren't just drug lords, they were economic titans, silently shaping the economies of entire regions. The rivalry between the Cali Cartel and Pablo Escobar was not merely a turf war, it was a clash of ideologies, a brutal struggle for supremacy that ultimately shaped the destiny of Colombia. While Escobar's war against the state was public and explosive, Cali's campaign against Escobar was a masterclass in strategic, covert warfare, leveraging every advantage they possessed. As Escobar's violence escalated, turning Medellin into a war zone and alienating the Colombian population, the Cali Cartel saw an opportunity. They understood that Escobar's recklessness was not only bad for business, but also drew unwanted attention to the entire drug trade. They began to actively undermine him, not just through competing drug routes, but by funding and supporting his enemies. This culminated in the formation of Los Pepes, Perseguidos por Pablo Escobar, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar. Los Pepes was a paramilitary death squad composed of victims of Escobar's violence, former cartel members, and right-wing paramilitaries, all secretly funded and armed by the Cali Cartel. Their mission was simple: to systematically dismantle Escobar's empire by targeting his associates, his family, and his infrastructure. They operated with a brutality that mirrored Escobar's own, but with a clear strategic objective: to eliminate the common enemy. The Cali Cartel provided Los Pepes with intelligence, resources, and a safe haven. They used their extensive network of informants within the police and military to feed Los Pepes information on Escobar's movements and hideouts. While the Colombian government and the DEA were officially hunting Escobar, Los Pepes were doing the dirty work, creating a pincer movement that squeezed Escobar from all sides. The violence was horrific, but it was effective. Los Pepes systematically destroyed Escobar's network, forcing him into hiding and isolating him from his remaining loyalists. The Cali Cartel understood that by eliminating Escobar, they would not only remove their most dangerous rival, but also gain a significant advantage with the Colombian government, who would view them as the lesser evil. This strategic alliance, though morally reprehensible, proved to be a decisive factor in Escobar's downfall. When Pablo Escobar was finally cornered and killed in December 1993, it was not just a victory for the Colombian state, that it was a monumental triumph for the Cali Cartel, clearing the path for their undisputed dominance of the global cocaine trade. They had won the war, not with bombs and public declarations, but with calculated moves and the strategic deployment of their enemies' enemies. With Pablo Escobar eliminated, the Cali Cartel stood at the pinnacle of its power, seemingly untouchable. However, their greatest triumph also sowed the seeds of their eventual destruction, primarily through their deep and pervasive infiltration of the Colombian political system, a scandal that would become known as Process 8000. This was the ultimate expression of their philosophy, not to fight the state, but to own it. The cartel's ambition extended beyond merely bribing local officials. They aimed to control the very levers of national power. Their most audacious move was their alleged financing of the 1994 presidential campaign of Ernesto Samper Pizarro. It was a massive undertaking, reportedly involving millions of dollars in illicit contributions, funneled through various channels to avoid detection. The goal was clear: to install a president who would be indebted to them, ensuring their continued impunity and protection from prosecution. If they could control the presidency, they could control the justice system, the police, and the military, effectively legalizing their operations through political influence. The scandal erupted when a tape recording surfaced, allegedly featuring a conversation between Gilberto Rodriguez Orejuela and a prominent journalist discussing the cartel's financial contributions to the Samper campaign. This was the first crack in their carefully constructed facade of legitimacy. The subsequent investigation, dubbed Process 8000, became a national obsession, exposing the shocking extent of narco-corruption at the highest levels of Colombian government. While Samper vehemently denied any knowledge of the illicit funds, claiming the money was accepted without his awareness, the evidence mounted. Key campaign officials were arrested, and the scandal plunged Colombia into a profound political crisis, straining its relationship with the United States, which threatened to decertify Colombia as a partner in the war on drugs. Process 8000 was a double-edged sword for the Cali Cartel. On one hand, it demonstrated the incredible reach of their influence, proving their ability to manipulate national elections. On the other hand, it exposed them to an unprecedented level of scrutiny. The very act of attempting to control the presidency, while a logical extension of their strategy, ultimately made them too visible, too powerful, and too dangerous to ignore. The quiet whispers of corruption had become a deafening roar, forcing the Colombian state, under immense international pressure, to finally confront the gentlemen of Cali head-on. Their success in infiltrating the state became the catalyst for their downfall, as the world could no longer turn a blind eye to the narco-democracy they had so meticulously crafted. While the Cali Cartel was busy infiltrating the highest echelons of power and dominating the global cocaine trade, they simultaneously cultivated a carefully constructed public image within their home city. This facade of respectability was maintained through a chilling practice known as social cleansing, a brutal yet effective method of controlling their environment and projecting an image of order and safety, a stark contrast to the chaos of Medellin. In Cali, the cartel enforced a strict code of conduct. Unlike Escobar, who tolerated and even encouraged petty crime in his territories, the Rodriguez Orejuela brothers demanded order. They actively targeted and eliminated petty criminals, prostitutes, drug addicts, and street children, anyone they deemed a social undesirable or a threat to their carefully curated image of a clean, a safe city. These limpiezas sociales, social cleanings, were carried out by their security forces, often with the tacit approval, or at least willful ignorance, of local authorities who were either on their payroll or too intimidated to intervene. The result was a city that, on the surface, appeared remarkably peaceful and well-ordered, especially when compared to the bomb-ridden streets of Medellin. This perceived order contributed significantly to the cartel's local popularity. Many residents, weary of the violence and instability that plagued other parts of Colombia, viewed the Cali Cartel as a necessary evil or even as benevolent protectors who brought a semblance of stability and prosperity. They invested in local businesses, sponsored sports teams, and contributed to community projects, of further cementing their image as legitimate businessmen and pillars of the community. They were seen as the gentlemen of Cali, not just because of their sophisticated demeanor, but because they brought a perverse form of peace to their domain. This facade was crucial. It allowed them to operate with less public scrutiny, to maintain a network of loyal informants, and to present a respectable front to the outside world, even as their illicit empire expanded. The contrast with Escobar was stark. While Medellin was synonymous with terror, Cali projected an image of quiet prosperity, a city where one could walk the streets without fear of random violence, provided one adhered to the cartel's unspoken rules. This dual nature, ruthless criminal enterprise on one hand, and a seemingly benevolent force for order on the other, was a testament to their strategic genius and their profound understanding of human psychology. They understood that control could be achieved not just through fear, but through a twisted sense of security and perceived stability. Despite their sophisticated structure, technological edge, and political influence, the Cali Cartel was not immune to the forces that ultimately bring down all criminal empires. Internal paranoia, relentless pressure from law enforcement, and the inevitable betrayal from within. Their fall was not a sudden collapse, but a gradual unraveling, driven by the very success that had made them so powerful. After Escobar's death and the exposure of Process 8000, the spotlight on the Cali Cartel became blinding. The United States, particularly the DEA, intensified its efforts, pouring resources into dismantling the organization. The Colombian government, under immense international pressure, could no longer afford to turn a blind eye. The cartel's leaders, once untouchable, found themselves increasingly isolated and hunted. And the pressure began to breed paranoia within the ranks. The cellular structure, once a strength, now became a source of suspicion. Who could be trusted? Who was talking to the authorities? The gentlemen of Cali, who had built their empire on discretion, found their secrets leaking. The turning point came with the defection of key insiders. One of the most significant was Jorge Salcedo Cabrera, the cartel's head of security. Salcedo, a former military man, was initially hired to protect Miguel Rodriguez Orejuela's family. However, as the pressure mounted and the cartel's methods grew increasingly ruthless, including the planned assassination of a child, Salcedo became disillusioned. He began secretly cooperating with the DEA, providing critical intelligence that led directly to the capture of the cartel's top leaders. Salcedo's betrayal was not motivated by greed, but by a moral breaking point, a realization that the gentlemen were just as brutal as Escobar, only more discreet. His inside knowledge of their communication systems, safe houses, and operational procedures proved invaluable. In a series of dramatic raids in 1995 and 1996, the core leadership of the Cali Cartel was systematically apprehended. Gilberto Rodriguez Orejuela was captured in June 1995, found hiding in a secret compartment in his home. Miguel followed shortly after, in August 1995. José Santa Cruz Londoño was captured in July 1995, but famously escaped, only to be killed in March 1996. Pacho Herrera was the last of the four to be captured, surrendering in September 1996. The arrests were a monumental victory for law enforcement, but they also revealed the extent of the cartel's penetration. Many of the raids were only possible because of insider information, highlighting the internal rot that had set in. The cartel's downfall was not due to a lack of power or resources, but because the very system of trust and discretion they had built ultimately crumbled under the weight of their own ambition and the relentless pursuit of justice. The paranoia they had sown in others eventually consumed them from within. The fall of the Cali Cartel marked the end of an era, but their legacy, unlike Escobar's, is far more complex and insidious. While Medellin left behind a trail of overt destruction, Cali left behind a blueprint for sophisticated criminal enterprise, and a chilling reminder of how easily corruption can permeate the fabric of a nation. Their story is not one of good triumphing over evil in a clear-cut battle, but rather a moral reckoning with the blurred lines between power, politics, and illicit gain. The gentlemen of Cali demonstrated that violence, while effective, is not the only path to criminal dominance. Their preference for bribery, infiltration, and corporate efficiency proved to be a far more dangerous and enduring threat to democratic institutions. They showed the world that a criminal organization could operate like a legitimate business, leveraging technology, intelligence, and political influence to achieve unparalleled control. This model of sophisticated, low-profile drug trafficking would unfortunately be emulated by future cartels, making them harder to detect and dismantle. The lessons learned from Cali's operations continue to inform counter-narcotic strategies to this day. Furthermore, the Process 8000 scandal left an indelible stain on Colombian politics, eroding public trust in government and exposing the fragility of democratic institutions when confronted with immense wealth and corruption. It highlighted the devastating impact of narco dollars on national sovereignty and the rule of law, and the long-term consequences of this deep-seated corruption continue to plague Colombia, demonstrating that the damage inflicted by the Cali Cartel went far beyond drug trafficking. It was a systemic assault on the very foundations of the state. In the end, the story of the Cali Cartel is a cautionary tale. It's a narrative that forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are not the ones who announce themselves with explosions, but those who operate in the shadows, meticulously weaving webs of influence and corruption. They were not heroes, nor were they simply villains. They were a reflection of a system that allowed them to thrive, a system they exploited with chilling precision. Their empire may have crumbled, but the questions they raised about power, morality, and the true cost of unchecked ambition continue to resonate, reminding us that the most profound battles are often fought not on the streets, but in the quiet corridors of power, where whispers can be far more destructive than any bomb.